So picture this. You've got a wildly successful business. Things are comfortable. Why in the world would you uproot your domestic operations to risk it all overseas? Think about it. The US is a huge market, sure, around 320 million people. But why on earth would you limit yourself to 320 million when there are over 7.7 billion potential customers sitting just outside your borders?
Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely pumped to dive into today's topic with you. We're going to decode the mechanics of international trade. We'll unpack exactly how everyday products hit our shelves, and we're going to explore the strategic playbook companies use to make that massive global leap. To understand why this leap is necessary, we just have to look at the sheer scale of the global market. North America? That makes up barely 4.7% of the world's population. Meanwhile, Asia alone accounts for almost 60%. If you're a business hunting for massive revenue growth, the math is totally undeniable. Expanding globally isn't just a fun idea, it's literally the only logical step to reach the vast majority of the planet. All right, here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1, the global market opportunity, 2, the mechanics of trade, 3, strategies for market entry, 4, navigating unseen forces, and 5, protectionism and free trade. Let's break down this entire problem solution playbook. Section 1, the global market opportunity, moving beyond borders. There's incredible momentum driving companies to expand right now, and it's not just that the market is huge today, it's that it's expanding at a wild rate. The world's population is projected to jump from roughly 7.8 billion in 2020 to almost 9.3 billion by 2050. That is billions, with a B, of brand new consumers. For ambitious businesses, staying home just doesn't cut it anymore. Making the global leap is an absolute necessity to capture that future demand. Section 2, the mechanics of trade, imports and exports. Okay, so stripped down to its absolute core, global trade comes down to 2 actions: importing and exporting. Importing is just buying products from elsewhere, stuff we might not produce enough of locally, like avocados, steel, or Scotch whiskey. Exporting is selling our stuff overseas, like US manufactured cars, almonds, or wine. Get this, though. The United States is the largest importing nation in the world and the second largest exporter, right behind China. And exporting? It's a massive economic engine. Every $1 billion in exports generates over 7,000 jobs. So why do we do it? Well, it all boils down to absolute and comparative advantage. Basically, countries focus on what they do best and cheapest. If country B can grow apples for 2 cents, but it costs country A 30 cents, why would country A waste their resources growing apples? They shouldn't. They should just buy them from country B and focus on what they can produce efficiently, like avocados. It's a system that lets everyone optimize. When we tally up all this buying and selling, we look at the balance of trade. A trade deficit is simply when a country is importing more goods than it's exporting. And obviously, if a country exports more than it imports, you've got a trade surplus. Keeping tabs on these metrics is absolutely crucial for understanding how wealth is actually flowing across borders. Section 3, strategies for market entry, the slider of risk. Now that we know the why, let's talk about the how. Think of market entry like a giant slider of risk and control. At the lowest end, you have exporting. Super low risk, you're just selling products you already make. But as you slide up, things get way more intense. You move into licensing, then franchising, then strategic alliances. Further up, you've got joint ventures, all the way to the top with direct investment, becoming a full multinational corporation. As you push that slider up, your potential reward is huge, but so is your financial exposure. Let's zoom in on the middle of that slider. Licensing is when a firm shares its trade secrets or IP for a royalty fee. It sounds like easy money, but the catch is real. Your foreign partner might just learn your secrets, ditch the agreement, and become your competitor. Franchising is a much tighter contractual deal, where they use your entire brand name and operational system. Contrasting these two really shows the delicate dance between expanding quickly on someone else's dime and the terrifying risk of losing your competitive edge. At the very top of our risk slider, foreign direct investment. This is going all in, requiring massive capital and physical presence. Take Adidas, for example. They made the huge strategic call to close certain footwear factories in the West, to heavily invest in a high-tech, automated facility in Vietnam. They aren't just shipping shoes there. They've fundamentally embedded their physical manufacturing right into a foreign landscape. Section 4, navigating unseen forces, the roadblocks.
Here's the reality check. Expanding isn't just simple math on a spreadsheet. There are these hidden roadblocks that can totally derail you. Operating internationally is infinitely more complex than playing at home because of four massive, uncontrollable forces: social-cultural, economic and financial, legal and regulatory, and physical and environmental. Assuming your domestic strategy will just magically work abroad is a fast track to failure.
Let's look at sociocultural forces. We actually measure these cultural differences with things like Hofstede's dimensions. Take power distance, how willing a society is to accept social inequality as just a natural thing. Or think about individualism versus relying on a group. If your marketing campaign is all about, individual rebellion, but you launch it in a country that highly values group harmony, that campaign is going to tank. You simply cannot base your assumptions on your own culture.
Adaptation is literally mandatory when we face economic and physical forces. Look at Apple. In parts of the Middle East, they actually sell a modified, cheaper phone with fewer features just to align with the actual disposable income there. And physical forces? If a country's infrastructure, like paved roads or reliable internet, is poor, your high-tech distribution model might be totally useless. The product or how you deliver it absolutely has to change.
Section 5. Protectionism and Free Trade, the Invisible Walls. Now, governments love to manipulate this global chessboard. A huge controversy in trade right now is a practice called dumping. Dumping happens when a company sells products in a foreign market for way less than they charge back home. For instance, China and Brazil have taken heat for allegedly dumping cheap steel into the US. The whole argument is that this heavily discounted steel undercuts local mills, making it impossible to compete and costing domestic jobs. It's an incredibly messy issue. So, to fight back against things like dumping and protect their own economies, governments build invisible walls, proof that trade is rarely ever 100% free. You've got tariffs, which are just import taxes, like a 10% tax on a foreign-made car. You have import quotas, which put a hard, literal cap on how much of a product can enter the country. And in the most extreme cases, you have embargoes, complete outright bans on trade, like the ones on North Korea. But of course, countries still want the massive benefits of open trade. So what do? They form trade blocs to bypass those very barriers. The USMCA, the agreement formerly known as NAFTA, basically eliminates trade barriers between the US, Canada, and Mexico to keep things flowing smoothly. The European Union goes even further: a common external tariff, zero internal tariffs, and even a shared currency. They want the whole shebang to make trade as seamless as possible.
Which brings us to a really fascinating question to wrap up our explainer today. Does true free trade actually exist anywhere? We've seen that while taking the global leap offers staggering rewards and access to billions of people, it's also tightly controlled by a massive web of invisible walls, quotas, and cultural nuances. Navigating it is a massive puzzle, for sure. But for the businesses that crack the code, the entire world becomes their marketplace. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this deep dive. And next time you buy something, really think about the insane journey it took to get into your hands.